Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday, session 3.3 of my FileMaker for Stage Lighting series. I guess now just kind of FileMaker in general. We've kind of gotten away from lighting a little bit. Of course, this week focusing more on a contract management database system. So not much housekeeping to do. I did put 3 links in the video description here on YouTube that we will use today. Really just for your reference. You don't necessarily have to do anything with them. Just be aware that they're there. There is a custom function we are going to be adding, and the link to that custom function is in the description as well. So I'll go over that when we get to it. Okay, let's dive right in. So we left off yesterday. We had pretty much gotten all of our cover sheets done. We got a ugly looking rider put in, but a rider nonetheless. Something here. And so what I want to do today is kind of take this to the next level. We're going to look at how we're going to export these things as PDFs, make a PDF that is the cover sheet and the rider put together. We will look at how to do all kinds of cool stuff with calculations. This is kind of what we're going to be going for today. We'll be creating this list of clients that can be sorted by quarter, can be sorted by show, can be sorted by all these different things that can tell you if you've met your health insurance premiums for that quarter, if you've got a pension credit for the year, all of that fun stuff, and as well as just kind of grand summaries of fees and total contributions and total dues due. So that's what we're going to be working towards today overall. But before we do that, I want to just kind of finish up yesterday's thing. So yesterday when we were making these cover sheets, you might have noticed when we look at this that there's lots of extra white space at the bottom here that we don't want. The reason for that is because this layout is currently in a list view instead of in a form view. So when we made layouts before, we talked about that a little bit, and we talked about how in a list view, it kind of looks more like what we're going for here, where you have multiple lines that each line has a record, versus a form view, which is more of this, where each screen is an individual record. And of course, I copy pasted and duplicated some of these contracts in here, just so there was some dummy data in here. So really the reason this is like that is because if you look here, this is in list view. So if I switch this over to form view, that goes away. And I can also get rid of the option to do that just so it's never there, by going into my layout editor, Command L, going to layout setup, and then under views, I can choose which views are available to the user on the screen. So I'm going to uncheck list and table view. And now when I go back into this, you notice these other ones are grayed out, and all I have available is this form view. So just a little housekeeping thing to kind of keep in mind. I'm going to do the exact same thing over here on the rider. I'm always going to want to view this rider as a form, or as a single record, not as a list of records. Probably the best way to think about that is a single record versus a list of records. Okay, so what I want to do now, over here on my contract data entry page, and we made this button here, doesn't currently do anything other than opens up this layout. I want this to actually generate a PDF of this cover sheet for me. So let's go ahead and do that. Going into my layout editor here, again, Command L, and let's look and see what we had this button do. We already have made a basic script that was go to cover sheet. So I'm going to edit that script by I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do Command-Shift-S to open my scripts editor. And we have this cover sheet script that we made. And of course, we did some if-else-if logic here to help determine what kind of cover sheet we wanted to be on. So let's do the POA one here first. So we have new window, going to this cover sheet. And really, it's as simple as adding one more step. I'm just going to start typing PDF, and you see there's a Save Records as PDF option. So I'm going to hit Enter on that. And then if I do nothing else, pretty much this will work for me. But what I'm going to look at a couple of these options here. You know, there's a couple of configurable options. I have with dialog on or off. If you leave the dialog on, it's going to ask you where you want to save that PDF and what the file name is going to be, etc., etc. So for this first example, we're going to use that because we want to specify those things. You could hard code it in the background. So let's say you always want it to drop to your desktop, and you could define that path. You could do all of those things, and we're going to get to that later. Ignore the create folders for now. That has to do again with that creating a predefined file path. But if I click on this little gear icon here, I have a couple of other options. I have append to existing, which we're going to get to when we get to the writer. This is where we specify that output file. And then under specify options, this is the one thing I do want to configure. Under specify options, I want only the current record. If I do records being browsed, then what it's going to do is it's going to create a PDF where a multi-page PDF where every single page is a different cover sheet. And I don't want that at all. I just want the single one that I'm working on. So I'm going to say current record and really no other options. So you can set your PDF, you know, this is what is going to write to the PDF. So you could put all that stuff in there if you want. I'm going to ignore it for now and just say current record. So save as PDF, current record. I'm going to save this script, Command S, come back over here onto my layout. This is a POA layout already, so when I click this button, look, and now it's asked me, where do I want to save this PDF? Here's my Chapter 3 folder, so I'm just going to save it as untitled for now. And we'll take a look here and see, we will see what that looks like. Untitled.pdf, and there it is. And it looks like we had a little margin error here, so we'll fix that in a second. But it worked. Wonderful. So to fix that error, let's just look here and see why that happened. Page breaks. Not sure why that happened, honestly. I'm just going to make that a little smaller, and that will probably solve the issue. If you are coming into this for the first time with this video, I did, in that Dropbox folder on the last video with these cover sheets, I did go ahead and crop those for everybody. So if you're creating this new now, you will you'll be able to have the cropped versions. All right, let's try that again. Cover sheet, save as PDF. I'm just going to replace the existing one. There we go. Still have some space there, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time messing with that right now. It's just margin issues. Okay, so that works like that. And then, of course, what we could do this exec, so we could copy paste this script in to each one of these else if statements. And really, we probably, yeah, I'm going to want separate ones because I might want to title them differently later on down the road. In theory, I could actually move this out and just have one, because it's going to go to the right layout based on that the type, and then it's going to print it. But later on in this demo, I'm going to be kind of customizing those PDFs a little bit, so it's going to behoove me to leave them as 3 separate things for now. So let's save that and let's test it. Let's find an agreement here that is an SDA. Where did all of my contracts? Oh, I haven't created multiple contracts yet. So I'm just going to duplicate this contract and change it over to an SDA. Forgot I wasn't working with my key. I'm going to name that show 2 just so I don't get confused. And we'll give it to this client. Just some dummy information in there. So now when I click on cover sheet, you can see it took me to the standard design agreement cover sheet. And some of those options that I specified before, like current record, that shows that's there for me, ready to go. So I'm going to replace that. There it is, the SDA. And of course, this one doesn't have that margin issue. So it printed the SDA for me. Lovely. Okay, so let's say now I want to print the cover sheet and the rider together. Sometimes you want separate documents, sometimes you want to create a single PDF. So you get where this is going, I think, right away. If I wanted to create just a standalone PDF rider, I could duplicate this script. I could make another button that just does the rider. You could do all 3. You could have one that does the cover sheet, one that does the rider, and one that makes a combo. So I'm just going to show you how to do the combo for now. and then you can take that and do what you want with it. So the first thing I'm going to do before I do this is I am going to start specifying more options about this PDF, because in order to append the writer to the cover sheet, FileMaker has to know where that first PDF was saved, because I'm actually creating two separate reports at once. I'm printing the cover sheet, then I am printing the writer, and then I'm hooking the two of them together. I'm appending the two of them together. So I have to define a path for that. So I'm going to just make a variable, set variable. And remember we talked about local versus global variables. This is going to be a local variable, and I'm just going to call it file path. And then for that calculation, I'm going to use a get function. So I'm going to type in get and hit enter. And now you can see there are all kinds of different things that I can information, parameters, stuff like that I can get about the program, about the current records, about what operating system I'm on, stuff like that. So I'm going to get temporary path. Temporary path is a folder that FileMaker creates in the background in a temporary directory for you. And so the files that get put in that temporary folder get deleted every time you close the program. So it's a great little holding place for your files. You could also, if you wanted to, you could do get desktop path. You could do documents path. I think there's a couple other ones, but those are the ones that I use most often. And actually, instead of doing the temp path today, I'm going to do the desktop path, just so this dumps it out to my desktop and it's easy to find that way. So I have get desktop path. Okay, so now I've set that variable. And now here under the save, I'm going to delete these other two save record steps and just kind of move all this stuff down so it's a little clearer to read. Now here under save records as PDF, I'm going to specify my output file. And to specify that, all I'm saying is file path. And I'm going to choose not automatically open, actually. One quick thing I did forget to do. So this file path is going to give you the path to your desktop. So it's going to be, if you're on Mac, it'll be Mac or Mac OS or whatever your system is, and it kind of drills down all the way to your desktop. If you're on PC, it'll be C, users, that kind of thing. We also have to append the actual file name to the end of this. So I'm going to do an ampersand, quotes, and we'll call this, let's say, SDA test.pdf. So basically what I'm doing is it's going to be the desktop path, and then I'm popping SDA test.pdf on the end of that. So if you can picturing this another way, it's, users, desktop, users, Mike Wood, desktop, and then SD. So this is kind of what that actually is creating. Kind of just gives you a visual of what this calculation here is creating. Of course, I'll get rid of that, or I'll get some errors here. Okay, so I'm saving those records as a PDF. So before I go any further, no, I'll keep moving on. So I'm saving those records, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Layout, and I'm going to choose. I should do this under the SDA, since we have an SDA rider and not a POA rider. Great. So I just moved it down here. So go to Layout. The layout I'm going to go to is going to be my SDA rider. And then I'm just going to copy paste this save records step again, and I'm going to change one thing about it. I'm going to click on this append to existing PDF option. So basically what has happened now is I've created a PDF of just the cover sheet. Then I've gone to my writer. I have then saved that writer as a PDF, and I'm appending it to the end of the existing PDF cover sheet. And under output file this time, I'm going to click on this automatically open file option. That way it just opens in whatever your PDF browser, your editor you use, it'll open in. Okay, so let's try that. So I'm going to click on cover sheet. Oh, I forgot to cancel. what did I forget to do? Oh, so right here, this with dialog, I'm turning this off now. I don't need a dialog anymore since I've specified these things. Forgot to do that. So saving, turning dialogs off. Okay, trying again. And there we go. It opened it up in Acrobat for me. Here's my cover sheet, and here's my my really bad looking rider. Pretty easy. So if I had multiple other things, let's say, in one of the versions of this solution that I've made before, I've got, let's say it's a new client who has never done a union contract before. So for them, I have a little, almost like a cover letter explaining the process kind of in a little bit of a simpler way, and kind of like, hey, thank you for hiring me. Here's the information you need for this. And so it it pops that in front of the cover sheet, just in the exact same way. So super easy stuff there. Now, of course, it does leave this window open here for us. So there's two ways I can go about doing this. I can either get rid of this new window step and have it just go to the existing layout within this window. Or if I want it to be a new window, I can actually close that window that popped up once this stuff is done. So let me give it a name. So right here on this new window step, I'm going to name it, maybe please wait or something like that, And then after this is all done, I'm going to say close window, and I'm going to specify please wait. So now if I run this same script again, all that stuff kind of happened in the background and it made the PDF for me, and I didn't have to really see anything. Now, that's one way of doing it. As you get things a little more complicated, you might choose instead to just have it all happen in the same window. And in that case, what I would do is instead of a new window going to the SDA cover sheet, I would just have another go to layout step here. And then if we put at the very top here, if we put a freeze window step at the very top of our script, we won't see any of those things changing. So it'll be pretty seamless. Again, two ways of accomplishing roughly the same thing. You might find it useful to see that other window. Maybe we want to leave it open. Maybe we want that. Totally up to you how you do that. Okay, and then the only other thing that we might want to look at when doing this, of course, that the PDF that it created is called, let's see, what's it called? SDA test.pdf, right? Here it is in preview, SDA test.pdf. Maybe I want to make that a little bit more personalized. Maybe I want to make that the name of the show or something like that. So I'm gonna split this file path thing out here into a couple of other variables. I'm gonna say set variable desktop path get desktop path, and then let's have another one that is file name, and then under file name, this is where we'll get a little bit more complicated. So maybe we do show name and then ampersand quotes SDA agreement quotes, and notice I put spaces inside of those quotes so it spaces it out properly. And I could put my designer name in there if I want to, if I do have a field for that, or I could just put it here and just say Mike Wood. So now it's going to append, or it's going to pop the show name and SDA agreement Mike Wood, and then maybe we throw the client name on the end or something like that. And then, of course, at the end of that, we need to put an ampersand there. The spaces outside of the quotes, again, don't matter. They will not do anything bad to your script. It just is a way to help see it a little bit better. I need to then add, of course, a .pdf at the end. And if you wanted to, you could make that a separate variable. You can make it an extension variable, however you want to do it. Great. So now I've got desktop path and file name, and now file path, instead of this, will be let's see, what did we do? We'll have desktop and file path. And depending on, I'm blanking now on Windows. You may have to add another slash to the front of your file path, or excuse me, file name. You might have to add a leading slash to this. On Mac, you don't. I feel like that might have been a thing on Windows, but I could be completely wrong. So if you start getting errors or something like that, just have a look at what your actual paths are there, and I'll show you how to do that later on. Okay, so now basically what I've done is I still have this file path, so I don't have to edit any of this other stuff here. I have just kind of broken it out a little bit into additional variables that feed into this file path. Now, you could absolutely not have these two. You could do all of this stuff within this variable calculation, but if you've been following me on these classes for a while, you know that I like splitting it up, because to me, the minuscule amount of extra time or processing that it would take to calculate these extra things is completely not noticeable, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier to read when I'm troubleshooting and trying to figure stuff out. Great. So let's go ahead and generate this again, and let's see if it worked. Look at that. Look at the PDF title here. Show 2 SDA agreement, Mike Wood, YouTube Live. So it's the show name, then SDA agreement, my name, and then the producer's name. And of course it dropped the PDF there. So pretty cool stuff. And you see where that's going. So if you wanted to do a one for the cover sheet, one for the rider, one for the append, you could, make that title be cover sheet, make that title be rider, make that cover sheet be the whole agreement, whatever you want to do. You get the idea. Okay, so that is that. If there are any questions, I know we've got only a couple people with us today. I think a lot of people are traveling today, unfortunately. So if you do have any questions, those of you who are watching, please feel free to throw them out in the chat. But I'm going to move on to kind of prettying up our client layout a little bit before we move on to creating the list view of our contracts. So if you remember here, we have this little archive folder where those original FileMaker generated layouts were for us. If we go to the clients one, pretty ugly, don't really like it. I'm just going to leave it for now and go back to my contract entry page, and I'm going to use this as kind of my base template for how I build a client data entry layout. So I'm going to open up my layout editor by doing my layout manager by going Command-Shift-L, and I'm just going to duplicate that contract data entry layout, and I'm going to change the name to client data entry. And I'm also going to make sure that I'm changing what table it's associated with. So I don't want it associated with my contracts table. I want it associated with my clients table. And here under views, I'm going to only want form view, which is already set. Great. Client data entry, I'm going to open that. And then, of course, I'm going to close the contract data entry so I don't accidentally edit the wrong one. And now, of course, like this doesn't look any different. I need to go in and start moving some stuff around and getting the right fields put on here. And you'll notice right away in our field inspector over here, our field picker over here, the client fields are showing up for us instead of the ones that were there before. So that's great. I'm going to delete basically all of this stuff because it's not useful. I'm going to, I'll just do this. So the reason I did that is, again, because I want to have a uniform style with all of my boxes. And so rather than going through and, reapplying styles and formatting and stuff like that, I'm just going to leave this and I'm going to retarget it over to my client's client name and just change the title. Our client name. And then let's say maybe the person who signs, the signatory name. Signatory, and then maybe we have contract email address. We've got our phone number. Maybe we've got our employer identification number. What else do we have? Whoops, I don't know what that was. We've got, oh, address, of course, address 1. And maybe instead of 2 headers there, maybe we do address with 1 line here, and then we do the other line here. Now, of course, this, again, this address 1 and 2, this corresponds to the 2 lines that show up on the cover sheet. If I wanted to, I could, using kind of that same calculation formatting that we just learned in the PDF naming, I could create a calculation field that kind of concatenates the, the street, city, zip, state, all that kind of stuff together if I really wanted to. So that's really all of the things we need for this. It's pretty simple. Of course, then if I go back into browse mode and look at it, these buttons still work because they're pretty much agnostic to what table we're on. And I'm going to make another client here, and we're going to call this the theater. Something like that. And let's say great, something like that. So I've got a couple of clients in there. That's great. Of course, now you're looking at this and you might say, okay, well, it'd be useful to, if I'm looking at this, to see what active shows I have for that client. So pretty easy to do that. We're going to learn a new thing today. Not new if you followed me for my my lighting paperwork thing, but new if you're just new to this particular chapter. And that's called a portal. A portal is a way to see related records from another table on a layout for let's say you have table A and you have related records from table B. It's a way for us to see those records from table B on a layout for table A. So the portal tool is up here on my menu bar. It's this one next to the little bar graph. And if you hover over, you'll see it says portal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag, basically just make a big box here. And then it's going to ask me a whole bunch of options. So going through these options is important. So kind of keep up with me here and pause if you need to. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, it's asking me where I'm getting these records that I want to show from. This is a very simple solution. So I have the current table of clients or my related table of contacts. So pretty obviously we want contracts. Next up, we have a whole bunch of other options here we can choose from. The only thing that we're really going to worry about for now is sorting. So we're going to sort these records. And we probably want to sort them by whenever the contract starts. So we can go, we can go high, earliest to latest if we want to. We could go descending order. We can go latest to earliest, or vice versa. Either way, that'll work like that. And that's all we're going to specify on this initial screen for now. We can also say how many rows this portal has, which will of course change how big it is. This alternate and active row state we talked a little bit about on day 1. And you can kind of see that in the background here. You have 2 different shades of gray. And then I'm going to click OK. And then when we're first creating the portal, now it's going to ask me what fields I want to display from my contracts table on that portal. So I know that I want, let's say, the contract start date. I know that I want the show name. I know I probably want what kind of USA contract it is, if it's LORT, whatever. And then maybe I want to see the total. Maybe I just want to see the total fee that I'm getting paid and the total amount of money I'm making on it. So I'm going to keep it simple for now with just those 4 things. Now when I click OK, you see that shows up here. And if I jump back into browse mode and I go back to a client that actually has shows associated with it, you can see that those are showing up. And if I open up a new window and I go over, let's make a couple more shows just for the heck of it. I'm going to duplicate this a couple of times. And then what is that? Client face. When I go back over to client face, now all these other shows are showing up there. And then I can directly edit these things from this as well. Of course, you can disable that and just have it be visual, but you get the idea there. So now I can have all this kind of stuff showing me the active shows for that particular client. And of course, I'll need some kind of column headers and stuff like that there to say this is the show name. Contract. You get the idea. I'm not going to do all of them. So there, that shows up like that. Now you might say, okay, well, this is super helpful. This is super handy, but wouldn't it be great if I could click on one of these and have it pop me over to that record on this layout? And the answer is yes, we can absolutely do that. I'm going to go back into layout mode here, and I'm just going to resize these boxes a little bit because they're a little big. And then really, it's as simple as I'm gonna copy paste an existing button just because I already have it. Oops, because I already have it styled. And I'm going to change the icon over, maybe let's say to, I guess I could do the pencil. Yeah, let's do the looking glass. I like that. Make it nice and small. Probably need to get rid of some of the padding on it. Nice and tiny. The reason I'm making it small is because I want it to be able to fit inside of this first row of my portal. So if you notice, like when I go into this layout mode, the portal is showing up with only one row, with only one set of fields. But below it, you see where the additional records would show up. So anything you put in this kind of upper white space here will be then repeated multiple times throughout your whole portal. Of course, this feed total, we want this to be a currency, 2 decimal places. Great, so now when I go back to browse mode and I have these, I've got those buttons there. Of course, now I need to go ahead and tell those buttons what they're supposed to do. So I'm going to double click on my button again, and single step, instead of go to record or page next, I'm going to say go to layout, and then the layout will be contract data entry. And that's really that's all there is to it with this particular case. Because this button exists on this row, FileMaker will know which record you're talking about when you go to click on it. So there we go. Oh, wait, did that do the wrong one? I might have to make that a script. Ah, crap. Hang on one second. Data entry. I go to show 5. Yeah, I do. Okay, I lied. I need to make that a quick script in order to go to the correct. Oh no, I used the wrong script step. I'm just an idiot. Data entry, client data entry. If I look over at my key, I would know what I'm doing here. So instead of go to layout, it is go to related record from table contracts using layout contract data entry. We'll do a new window for that. I think that'll work. If not, we can make it a script. Show 5. There we go. So that's what I wanted. And it did. It made it a new window. So I'll show you that one more time because I went kind of quickly through it. I did, instead of go to layout, I did go to related record from table contracts using layout contract data entry in a new window. So now when I click on one, say show 3, there I am. I'm in show 3 and it's in a new window. So that's pretty handy. You could also then kind of make that go the opposite way. So over here, I could add a button that automatically takes me over to client faces contract or client page and all that kind of stuff. So really powerful tools that you can do with that. Make sure that works. Yeah, producer, that's the right one. Lovely. Great. Okay, so that's kind of clients in a nutshell. Oh, let me show you one other thing I can do. I forgot when we were doing our PDF generation. I'm gonna go back over here to this contract data entry. No, I'm not. I'm gonna stay on client data entry. Let's say I wanted to generate those PDFs right here from this portal record. I could absolutely do that too. I'm just going to make the button that targets that same script that we had before. And maybe we make the icon be PDF. And we say, instead of single step, it's going to perform this go to cover sheet script. Like that. And now that should generate show 2. Yep, it did. Show 2's SDA agreement for me with the writer and everything else. Just like I wanted it to. What I can do is I can also have an option to automatically attach that PDF to an email. So I'm going to put that right here, and I'm going to change the name of this script from go to cover sheet to generate contract, because that's a little more descriptive. Now I don't have to change anything in my buttons or anything just by changing that name, because all the linking between buttons and scripts and stuff like that is all done in the background. So I could rename this anything I want. It's not going to break anything in my file. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to look here. If I double click on this final save records as PDF option, you see there's a checkbox here that says create email with attachment. So if I do that and I click the button, it opened the PDF, and it also just opened my email up, and it attached this agreement to a blank email. Great, so that's a quick and easy way to do it. I could drop this information in here. I could type all the information out manually pretty easily. Or instead of using that option, I'm going to uncheck that. And what I could do is I could say send mail. And now I can get a little bit more specific with it. So I could say send that mail to client's email. I could have a subject, and I could make a calculation in this subject. I could say SDA agreement for, and then let me specify the calculation, SDA agreement for, and the show name. Oops, I forgot the ampersand. And I could say this is the body of the message. And then I can attach a file. Again, I've got file path already defined here. File path. Great. One important thing to note here, this with dialog, if you leave dialog on, it will open up the email, compose it for you, but not send it. If you turn the dialog off, it will automatically send the email using your email client. I don't love that. I like keeping it on so that I can proofread the email one last time and make sure it's sent. You can also set up your own SMTP server, so you could actually log into Gmail for you, or log into whoever your email client is for you and automatically send that. Totally up to you. So now let's try this again. When I click this button, I'm going to wait a second. It opened the PDF because that was still an option here. And here is the email. Has the subject in there, SDA agreement for show 1. Here's the PDF. Here's that body. Maybe I need to put some carriage returns and stuff in there, but there it is. Pretty simple. Now you might be thinking, okay, well that's great, but sometimes I'm going to want to generate a PDF. Sometimes I'm going to want to email it. Sometimes I'm going to want to do both. So there's two ways we can go about. There's two ways we can go about doing this. Number one, I could create a separate script. That does that. Or what I could do is I could create some conditional logic to say, if I've clicked the email button, then activate this particular line in my script. So first step in that is going to be to duplicate this PDF button. And maybe we'll change this over to be mail, an envelope, right? Now, if you notice right here below below the script definer, there's a thing that says optional script parameter. So a script parameter is a piece of data, a piece of text that gets passed along to that script. So in here, I could say email, for example. I could change this one over here to just be PDF. And within my script then, I can say, okay, listen for this particular script parameter to do this thing or to not do this thing. So I'm just going to wrap this send mail step inside of an if statement. And it's going to be if get script parameter equals email. So if that script parameter does not equal email, it's just not going to do this particular line. So now when I come back in here, if I click PDF, created the PDF for me, doesn't do anything else. If I click email, generate the PDF, generated, excuse me, generated an email as well. I'm dragging that in from an external window. I'm not lying to you. I promise you it's generating it. But it opens up on my other window here. That's why it's like that. Anyway, so you get that idea. And so then you could also then even get more creative with those if end if statements. You could, not have it show you if it does that kind of stuff. But hopefully you get the idea there and how you could use that as a pretty powerful tool. Okay, let's go ahead and jump back over to our contracts for a second. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and make my contract list view layout. So I'm opening up my layout manager here, Command-Shift-L, or File Manage Layouts. And I am going to once again duplicate this contract data entry layout, change the name to Contract List. And now under my views, I want this to be a list and not a form. So I'm going to uncheck form and have it be only a list view. And then go ahead and open that up. And right away, what you'll notice about it is it's all of those contracts that I've duplicated. I duplicated it like 6 times, all kind of in a list like this. So not super useful in this particular format, but super useful if we get the formatting looking a little bit more nice. So I'm going to edit that, and really what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete stuff that I know I don't need. So I don't need the rider terms to show up there. I don't need the logo, the cover sheet. Don't need cost. Maybe I do want health and pension, so I'll leave those. Dues I'll leave, maybe not per diem, AWC. I want my fee total. Don't really need these things. Don't need these things. Really just need a start date, I guess. Show name, producer name, theater. Don't need to know the number of seats, USA type. Okay, so now I have some fields that I know I can use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying these out in a way that makes sense. So probably show name is the thing that I will most often be looking at in the list. So I'm going to do show name there. I'm not going to worry about these headers for now. Maybe we do client name after that. I probably don't. I'm not even do the venue for this. It's just extra time it's going to take up. Contract type, something like that. Start date. And of course, I'm noticing right away, these are taking up a whole lot of space. So I'm gonna just make these all a little bit smaller. Maybe we'll go down to size 11 font. It's a little too small, maybe size 12 font. Great, now I can make these things all a little bit smaller so they fit a little more nicely. Contract start. And then maybe we have our fee next. Fee, benefits, pension, that kind of stuff. And we'll make those 12s as well so it looks the same. And we'll go just a little smaller. Something like that, maybe. Okay. And then I'm going to delete most all of these headers except for one. And I'm going to make it the same size as this box, like so. And I'm going to make the text white instead. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to then put the header up here in my column header in my actual header of my layout so that it shows up there. Client. Contract. Start date. Fee. Which one was this? This was health and then pension. Oh, jeez. Okay, pension and dues. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this body size way up tight like that. And then when I go back into browse mode, you see that now each one of my shows is listed in a list like this with that size. So pretty easy to work with. Of course, then what I could do is I could create a button like this, maybe make this another magnifying glass button, or maybe it's a pencil edit button, something like that. Change it to black. Nice and small. All this I should have got rid of this padding in the in my style before, but I didn't. Okay, and maybe we put that in there like that. So now I could have this button be a go to layout data entry. So now when I click on, let's say, show 3, there I am, show 3. I could go back to my list, just like that. Great, so now I can see really quickly at a glance all of my various contracts, and I'm gonna change a couple of these around, make them slightly different, maybe we make this one 2020, just give us a little bit more realistic data here, 1/25, 2020, 25, 2020, maybe this one is in 2021. Maybe this one's in April of 2021. Maybe this one's in 2020. Maybe 2019. Have some fun there, right? Back in the good old days. Okay. So now I've got some real information in there. Maybe we have different fees. Maybe this is a 25. Oh, that's right. Let me make this, instead of fee total, I'll make this the contract fee, just so I can edit it really quickly. Maybe this is a $1,500 show. Maybe this was a nice one. It was a $5,000 show. Maybe this one was a $750. 100. And I'm just putting in some dummy data in here just so I have a little bit more of a useful thing going forward. Okay, great. So this is really useful information. But I don't really have, I don't have any summaries of things. I can't add this all up in my head. So what I want to do next is to go in and create a couple of additional fields in this contracts table that summarize information for me. So the most obvious thing, the easiest thing, is going to be, let me close this. I'm going to close my script editor, is going to be just how much money did we get paid in total. So there's two things to keep in mind as we're going through and doing this. Number one, the way FileMaker works with summary fields is you can summarize all of the records in a table. You can summarize only the records in a sorted set. So let's say we were to sort this by client, for example. I could have a summary field that then shows me a total just for that particular client. I could sort it by year, all those kinds of things I could do. So I'm actually going to be making two sets of summary fields. One that I'm going to consider a subtotal, and another one that I'm going to consider a grand total. And that'll make a little bit more sense in a moment here. So I opened up my database manager, and I'm going to add a field called totals. Actually, no, sorry, we're going to start with subtotals. Subtotals. No, we're going to start with totals. Totals. And we're just going to say total fees. Total fields and fees. And this is going to be a summary field. When I click create, we have got a new window that we haven't seen here before. So our total fees is going to be basically just a total of, I'm going to choose a field here, and that is going to be contract fee. And that's really all, and then running total. That's really all there is to it. Total fees is total of contract fees. Same thing here. Totals for, let's say, health. Create. I'm going to create a running total of benefits health. Totals pension. And that's going to be a running total of benefits pension. And then finally, totals dues. dues owed. That's what we called it before. And that's going to be a running total of fees dues owed. Just like that. So now we have some totals fields. Before I do the subtotals, I'm going to come back over here. And now I'm going to add, let's just copy paste this, for example, and put it in the footer. And we're going to call this totals fees. Now when I go back to browse mode, you can see it's added up everything on this screen for me. Pretty handy there, right? I can do then the same thing for benefits. Let's say total health. And it's added up. It's done a running total of everything that I'm currently, all the records that I'm currently showing right there, just like that. So I'm not going to add all of them quite yet because we're going to do this in a slightly more elegant way in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and add some subtotals. So actually, before I do the subtotals, what I want to show you is this. So when we're in our layout editor, right now we're just looking at basically each row is its own record, right? There's no summaries above it. There's no summaries below it, anything like that. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to create some additional body parts that only show up, or excuse me, create some layout parts that only show up based on what my current sort order is. So for example, if I show you my demo over here again, you see there's these headers here for the particular client name. And then you've got these little headers underneath, or these little footers underneath each thing that show you a total just for the contracts within that particular set of data. So to do that, I am going to I'm going to right click anywhere on the layout and I'm going to go to part setup. And for each thing that I want to sort by, I'm actually going to be adding two parts. I'm going to add a sub summary, and let's do the obvious one here. Could be sorted by client, right? By producer name. Click OK, and I'm going to print this one above. And you see it popped up right there. And I'm going to create another one. Same again, same sub summary sorted by producer name. And this one I'm going to put below. Great, I'm going to make these just a little bit bigger. Could measure them, I guess. And then I'm going to do something as simple as putting the producer name field here. And maybe we make that a little bit bigger. We make it, let's say, maybe a 20. Again, get rid of some of this stupid padding that we don't need. Maybe we make it bold like that. And then if I start putting in these things like this, where I do, let's say I change this back over to my total fees, what's going to happen, and then of course I need to sort by, where is it, producer name. What's going to happen is, it did it properly, of course. Why did it do it properly? Oh, I see. Okay, so I'm going to stand by for one moment, please. Sorry about that. I was getting a phone call. Okay, where did I leave off? So instead, I want to put my subtotals here. That's where I was going. I want to put my subtotals here in this, and not my total totals, because if you look over here in this solution, I have I can do grand totals, I can do these little subtotals, all that kind of stuff like that. So okay, sorry, got a little flustered there. I'm going to jump back in. So I'm going to create these summary field, or these summary fields. I'm going to create one that says subtotals fees. And this is going to be a total of benefit, or total fees, contract fees, running total, restart for each sorted group when it's sorted by, let's say, contracts and producer name. Great. So I'm going to put my subtotal here. Like that. Great, and now I see for each client, it's got the right information there. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing here. I'll have a subtotals for health, total of health, restart when Sorry, I got flustered here, and now I'm trying to get back on track. Sorry for the couple people who are still watching. Okay, so before I move on to that, I want to back up a little bit because I jumped ahead of myself here. So when we're calculating certain things like pension and health, the dates of those contracts matter to us. So for example, when calculating our pension credits and our vesting credits for a year, for any given year, it takes into account all of the contracts that were filed in that calendar year. When we're calculating our health insurance contributions, that's done quarterly. So what I need to do is figure out a way to also sort these particular shows by year and also assign a particular quarter to them. The year thing is pretty easy to do. I can do that natively within FileMaker. What I can actually do is create a field that is meta date year, and that's going to be a calculation, and that calculation is pretty simple. I'm just going to type in year, and it's going to ask me for the name or for what date I want to get. And if you remember correctly, we have all these date fields that we formatted as dates before, so I could choose any one of these, and it's going to return only the year from that field. Now, this does get a little bit more complicated than I'm letting on because, of course, the signing date isn't necessarily the date that the union receives the contract all the time, and it's not necessarily the date that the stuff is processed. But for simplicity's sake today, I'm just going to use this contract start date as the defining date for all of these calculations we're going to do. You might even add an additional field on there that's like a received by, processed by date. Totally up to you. But yeah. So then calculation is number, and we don't want to store it. Great. So now if I just come in here and let's say I'm gonna take this and just give it, where is it? Meta date year. Like this. There we go. Now you see it's taken just the year out of this and it's put it in these fields for us. So now I can sort by that year. So I could click on the sort button here. I could clear that and say sort by metadate year. Just like that. Now they're in year order, which is super handy. And you see where I'm going with this, I hope. What I could then do is create additional additional layout parts with, a 2019 header, with a 2020 header. And then I can create summary fields that summarize what is going on just in that particular year. So now quarters get a little bit more complicated. You could certainly create a quarter field and do some math, based on what week or what month of the year it is. But what I'd like to do instead is use a custom function to do that. The custom function, Brian Denning has this website called Brian Denning's FileMaker Custom Functions that has user submitted. There's over 2,000 custom functions that are put into this, and it's basically a way to take this large calculation and make it a simple function within FileMaker. So to add this function to my solution, first I'm going to open this up. There's a link to this in the video description, and I'm going to go to File Manage Custom Functions, and I'm going to add a new one, and I'm going to call this quarter as the name. And then down here in this text box, I'm going to copy this text that's here, paste it in, and I need to define a couple of parameters here. So he spells it out for me. I have 4 parameters. I have date, starting month, starting date, and name by end. I did discover today, as you scroll down, you actually can't use the word date. So what I've done here is I've changed it over to any date. So just kind of going through here and updating these. Starting day, starting month, year, date. This one here I don't want to change because it's actually using the date function within FileMaker, which is why this is a little confusing. But basically anywhere I see the word date except for this one, I'm changing it to any date. And then up here, I'm going to go ahead and define these parameters. So I have any date, I have starting month, I have starting day, and I have name by end. Great, and you notice here it started to kind of spell this out for us, and it's starting to look a little bit more like what we're used to for a calculation, where I would call that quarter function, and then I would put in data separated by these semicolons for these various things. So I'm going to click OK, and now if I go back to my database manager here, I'm going to add a new calculation field that's going to be meta date quarter, make that a calculation, and then that calculation I'm just going to start typing quarter, and you see there we go. Now I say any date, so of course that any date we decided is going to be the contract start, and then starting month, starting date, these are when your fiscal year starts. So I'd say definitely for these purposes it's just going to be a 1. It's just going to be a 1. And what does name by end do? The fiscal year. Okay, so I'm just going to make this, I believe, a 0, right? That's what I want. Yeah. Okay. And calculation result is going to be a number, and we want it to be able to recalculate. Great. So now that's all happening in the background. I'm going to change this this year field over to be the quarter field, just so I see it. Of course, it's not big enough to display the data, so I'll make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Now we see it's got 2019 quarter 2, 2019 quarter 1, 2020 quarter 1, and that's kind of a little bit ugly having it like that. So what I could actually come in here and do is I could update this custom function and put a space before the Q. Simple as that. Putting a space before the Q, and now there it is. I got the year and the quarter all sorted right there. And of course I can come in here and I can say sort by metadate quarter, and now I'm sorted by year and then quarter. So 2021 quarter, well, maybe I should change one of these to, oh yeah, there's a 2021 quarter 2, quarter 3. Great. So now what I can do, and in the interest of time, I'm going to just show you how I did this over in my other solution rather than doing it from scratch, because I'm running a little bit over again. But I can create a bunch more body part or layout parts here that have those things have those different things show up when I'm sorting, right? So under part setup here, you can see I've got by producer name, by sorted by year, sorted by quarter, and then the same things here. Whoops, I did not mean to close that. Today is not my day, everybody. Not my day. Okay. The other thing I've done here is I've these little column headers, I've made some of them sort buttons. So it's a quick and easy way to show those things. And of course, to do that, I can just right click on the text box, make it a button, and say single step, sort records by client. Yeah, by client, right? By producer name. Just like that. So now when I'm not in a sorted order, when I click on that, all of a sudden now here comes, it shows up with those sub-summaries again. Pretty great stuff. Okay, so a couple more fields that we're gonna need to make. One of the challenging parts with calculating the health and the pension is knowing exactly how much money you need per year, or how much money you need per quarter in order to qualify for those things. So there's 2 links in the video description that will help you with that. One of them here is a link to the quarterly rates for Plan C with IATSE. So for example, on Plan C4, it's a $902 premium that you have to pay each quarter. And then the other thing is a Google Doc that's kind of a pension guide for members. Really the thing we're looking at right here is having to do with vesting credits. So you earn a vesting credit if you get $1,450 in pension contributions in a calendar year. So that's the magic number we're looking for, 1,450 there, and I'm going to use C4 individual, which is 902 for my health insurance. So I'm going to create a couple of fields that will automatically tell me if I have vested or if I have not vested in that plan yet. So here you can see it when I sort by quarter, it's telling me I've met my health insurance premiums for the year. Yes, this one's saying no, I haven't, and I'm negative $304. I need $304 more away. Same thing here. This one's $635. If I sort this by year instead, now you can see I've got, have I earned a vesting credit that year? Yes, I have. I had enough contributions in 2020 to do that. In 2021, I did not. I'm $1,248 away. What if I had a larger contract? What if it was a $15,000 contract? That was close. There, now I've got one. One thing that this doesn't do, it could do, you just have to get a little more creative with the math, but figuring out with your health insurance premiums, of course, you know, this is $1,200. That's $300 over what this is. So this would then, of course, roll on to the next quarter. That gets a little bit more complicated. So really what this is showing you is just if you've made enough to qualify for that particular quarter. You could absolutely go through and do the math and figure out, you know, those rollovers and stuff like that. It's a little beyond the scope of what we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so let's go ahead and create those calculation fields really quickly in our database. So to do that, I'm going to create a, we're going to call this benefits underscore status health premiums. Okay, that's going to be a calculation. Great. So we want this to display one of two things. We want this field to say, let's say yes or no. We want to say yes if we've made enough money, and we want to say no if we haven't made enough money. And in addition, perhaps we wanted to say no and then also show us how much money we still need to earn in order to reach that particular premium. So we're going to use the case function for that, just like we learned about yesterday. I'm going to clean it up just a little bit here. So we're getting it down to this. So we have case, test 1, result 1, default result. So essentially, again, what this is saying is if this condition happens, then do this. Otherwise, do this. Okay. So case for test 1 is going to be if, no, before we do that, I forgot to make the subtotals fields. I started doing that and I got away. So I need to make those subtotals health real quick. And then, of course, for health insurance, we are sorted by quarter, right? Quarter. Subtotals, pension. Create benefits pension, sorted by, and then this one, of course, is by year. Great. So now I can come in here and I can create my benefits status health premium. Create. Okay, back in business now, and I'm just going to paste this back in here. So this will be, okay, what's our condition? It's going to be if subtotals health is greater than or equal to, what did we say? It was $904, I believe. Yeah, or $902, great. 902. So if this is true, then I want it to do this. So I want the answer to be yes. And if not, let's just keep it as no for right now. And then we're going to come back and add that little bit of a calculation to figure out the difference. And the calculation result is text, and we want it to recalculate. Great. So now I can say, let's do let's do health premiums. And I need to put that in, if I look at my layout here, no, if I look at my parts, I need to put that in a sub-summary when it's sorted by quarter. because I'm working with health insurance. So meta date quarter. I'm going to put that below. Just like that. Great, so now I'm going to sort this by producer name, and I'm going to sort it just by quarter. And you can see right away, I haven't made enough money in any of these quarters to qualify for that health insurance. Let's say in this particular quarter, I made a lot of money. Boom. Now I've made a lot of money, and I'm good. I've made enough to cover that premium. Let's make it maybe a little more realistic. Okay, here, $960. That was enough to cover that premium. And then, of course, if it's multiple shows, let's say this one was $3,500, maybe this one's $4,000. It's going to add those together, and I still don't. That's still not enough, is it? Nope. $5,000. There we go. That's enough money. So it's gonna make that summary based on what's sorted by based on that grouping. So that's pretty great. Next thing I want to do is then I want to see exactly how much money I need to make in order to make that difference up. So this could be very useful if, for instance, I'm negotiating a particular contract and I say, before I send it out, if I throw in here, okay, well, if let's say I'm $100 short, maybe I could ask for $6,000 instead or something like that to get it up, whatever I would need to make that happen. So it's a good way to experiment a little bit. So I'm going to reopen this health premium calculation. Now over here under my no, instead of it just being a no, I am going to have it be kind of similar to the calculation that we did when we were making that PDF name. No, space, negative, and then put a $sign. Again, because this is all in quotes, it is considered text. And then I'm going to add, with an ampersand on the end of that, 902 minus our current subtotals for health. Right? Yeah, makes sense. Make sure that works, and it does. Great. So looking through that one more time, if subtotals health are greater than or equal to 902, then it's going to be yes. Otherwise, excuse me. Otherwise, it's going to be a no, and then it's also going to add 902 minus the number to give us how much we need left. So when I click OK, there we go. I'm $122 away in this quarter. I'm $614 away in this quarter in contributions. And then you can extrapolate that even further, again, using math to figure out, okay, if I'm $614 short this quarter, I know that health insurance premium is 12% of my contract amount. So how much more contract amount would I need to make? And all that stuff is very possible now once you start seeing how you can start laying some of this stuff out. Great, so I'm going to add one more, and this is going to be pension vesting credit, and I'm just going to duplicate this one since it's pretty close to what we already want. Pension vesting, and then I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to change some of these things. Case subtotals pension. I got to look up that number again. Let's open up our pension information again. And the magic number was 1450. I have to make 1450 in a year for a contribution, or in contributions for a vesting credit. So I'm going to change this over to be 1450. And of course, if you wanted to, you could, you don't have to hard code these numbers in. I think the last change in these numbers was in like 2014 or something like that. So if you wanted to, you could have them be a variable that you define. You could have a separate form field on like an admin table that you define them as. But they change so rarely that I don't think it's worth doing all that unless you really, really wanted to. Okay, so we have pension vesting. And what I'll do, of course, we will need to do one more part here, and this will be a sub-summary when sorted by year. We're going to put that below. And this one was health. We'll do this one for pension. Great. So now if I come in here and I sort by, let's say sort by year, where is it? Oh, because I don't have the field on here, I need to go to tables and then meta date year. There we go. See, I earned a vesting credit this year. I did not earn one. Did not earn one this year. Did not earn one this year. And then, of course, I could come in here and I could put my amount, subtotal pension, put my amount in there, and I can see exactly where I was. And of course, with a vesting credit, anything over doesn't carry over or anything like that. So it's really just a yes or no in this situation. And then, you know, the pension plan is relatively complicated in terms of vesting and pension credits and stuff. This is an excellent booklet that was put together by, I think Bradley King did it, and amongst other people as well. But it really lays it all out for you. And so you can take some of the math in here as far as pension credits, vesting credits, half credits, all that kind of stuff. And you could really quickly calculate your pension. You could do all that kind of stuff using this solution that you've made. The other kind of cool thing that you can do with this is, you know, back looking over at our clients, having this data in here, you know, like how much has, you know, I could put in this portal, how much has this company contributed to my health insurance in the last, you know, since I've been working with them. All of that data is super useful as a business person and as a freelancer, especially because it helps you with that negotiation. You know, okay, this company has actually been pretty good to me over the years. So maybe you're gonna help them a little bit more with a negotiation, or you're gonna be a little bit more friendly in a negotiation than you were with somebody who has not been. So really all it is having that data only can make you a better negotiator and put you in a place to better run your business as a freelancer, which is super important, especially coming back into the industry as we finish this year. If you're watching this 5 years from now, it is currently November 2020, so that should tell you all you need to know. Okay, I only have 2 more things to show, and they're very quick, so I'm almost only a little bit over time. Again, if there's any other questions, please feel free to shout them out. But hopefully, I know I was a little all over the place today. I just was a little flustered with a couple of things, so hopefully it made sense. If something didn't make sense, please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to clarify it and make it a little easier to read or easier to understand. But I'm hoping you get kind of the idea here of how this is working. So the last thing, I guess there's only one more thing that I want to show you, because I already showed you how to make your sort buttons like that. And that last thing is kind of a continuation from yesterday. So yesterday we talked a little bit about, we added POA agreements, which have a different payment schedule on them than a LORT agreement or than an SDA agreement. And we remember we added this little A or B switcher based on which payment schedule we wanted to use. So what we can do with this is we can start kind of laying that out. I'm not going to go super in depth on this. I'm just going to kind of give you the ideas of how to do it. But I need to create a couple of additional fields in order to make that happen. So I created kind of this visual guide for you. So the SDA contract and what we call the A payment schedule for the POA cover sheet are basically the same, right? It's this a third on signing, a third on approval, blah, blah, blah. So really that's a set of fields that we already have. And then we have these other fields over here that we consider our B fields, which are the daily, weekly, the hourly, overtime, those kinds of fields. So what you need to do is have 2 completely separate sets of fields for those things, and then kind of like a master total field that you use to calculate everything else. And so picture this kind of like a little bit of a flow chart. So there'd be this master total field would be basically a case function that would say, okay, if the schedule is A, then I'm going to use this total. If the schedule is B, then I'm going to use this total. And then you would need to then recalculate your pension, health, and stuff based on this kind of like master total field. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. This is what I had mentioned in the video yesterday about needing to just take some time to think about how it could work. I'm not going to dive into it because, again, it would kind of fundamentally change the way we've laid this out. So if you're not using POAs, of course, that's not super important. But if you are using a lot of POAs and you're using these different kinds of payment schedules, then this might be useful to go back and kind of add into your solution a little bit. And then you could extrapolate this even further to say, okay, maybe there's if you do also off-Broadway and Broadway and, an opera contract, anything that might have a different payment schedule or different frequencies or anything like that, you could start laying out those things as separate fields and only calculate based on the ones you want. Again, this information still exists in the background. It just won't be shown. It's like right now, this isn't actually a POA show, so that's why this kind of looks like that, but we would never actually want to see that in real life. Okay, great. So I think that is it for this particular session. Again, any questions, shout them out. I'm going to watch these videos over the next couple of days and find places where there might have been some confusing things or things I forgot. And then if there are, I will do a quick little standalone video for those. Otherwise, if you do have any other topics you'd like me to cover or anything related to using this for your lighting or for your contract work, please feel free to head on over to my website. There is a form there you can fill out with suggestions for future sessions. So thanks so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed, and have a great Thanksgiving, and I'll see you soon.